Hi, this is Eliot from Magoosh. I'm the IELTS expert at Magoosh, where we help students prepare for the IELTS exam with all kinds of resources you'll find helpful. But here in this video today, we're going to talk very specifically about IELTS Writing Task 2, and we're going to focus on the style of questions that are agree-disagree questions. Actually, they often ask you the extent to which you agree or disagree with a particular statement that they provide you. It's one of the types of questions that you might encounter for IELTS Writing Task 2, and it's an important one to understand so you know how to organize your response and organize the information in your essay that you write about this topic. So that's what we're going to discuss here. At the end of this video, after you watch it, if you really liked it, please hit that like button down below. And also make sure to subscribe to our channel. We've got lots and lots of videos coming out all the time, and that's the best way to ensure that you get all of our new content when it comes out, okay? But let's not waste any more time here. Well, let's get into our topic for today, which is agree-disagree questions on IELTS Writing Task 2. Okay, so diving right in. As I mentioned just a moment ago in the, sort of the introduction, we are thinking about a question type here where they're going to give you a statement of some kind, and they usually ask you, they add this little prompt at the end of the question, which says something like, to what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement? Okay, so the topic they give you is often going to be something that does not have a clear answer. It should be pretty easy to argue both sides of the issue, at least if you think creatively about the answer. Now, you may have a pretty strong opinion about the topic, and you may want to take a very clear answer and clear response to taking one particular side of the issue. And that's perfectly fine. We're going to discuss that here coming up in a bit, how to do that well. But it is often possible that there could be multiple sides, and you may not have a clear opinion yourself about the answer to the topic. You may be able to easily see both sides to the question. So we need to talk about that as well. How should we approach the situations here where you either want to take one clear side or you want to kind of take a mixed position on the statement, the question that's provided, and provide a somewhat balanced answer. Okay, so we'll talk about all of those here. And the format we're going to use, I'm going to present three different sample agree-disagree questions for us to consider. And we'll just talk about good approaches to organization for each of the three questions that we're looking at here. Okay, so let's dive into that and start with our first question here. Okay, so question number one. Here it is. The leaders or directors of organizations are often older people, but some people say that young people can also be leaders. To what extent do you agree or disagree? All right, now, as we mentioned a moment ago, with all of these questions you're likely to see, it is, in theory, possible to take either side of this question and write a perfectly good task 2 response. In other words, there's no correct answer to this question. You can answer either way. But to get full points on this question type, you need to develop a very clearly expressed position on the question, and you need to be consistent in your response throughout your essay. In other words, you should not ever contradict yourself and disagree with yourself in your essay. All right, so let's imagine for this first question that we are going to take the position that we agree that leaders should be the older people in an organization. All right, so what does that mean? Well, the first thing it means is that we need to clearly identify in our thesis statement that that is our position. We need to make a statement in the introduction saying, yes, I agree that in general, the older people in an organization ought to be in the leadership roles. Okay, that position needs to be clearly identified in the thesis statement. Okay, and then generally, we need for our body paragraphs to support that view. So each body paragraph should have a different reason why we think that older people ought to be in the leadership roles, all right? So at a minimum, you need at least 2 body paragraphs providing detailed support for that view. All right, so Again, there's no, we could argue the opposite side, and that would be perfectly valid and fine. But since we're imagining we're taking this very clear, strong position on older folks in leadership positions in organizations, let's think about what we would say there. Okay, so a main reason, one reason why one might say that older people should be in leadership roles is that they have the most experience, right? So you could write a whole paragraph describing how the experience that the older generation brings can be a valuable asset or provides particular positive qualities to a workplace environment, right? That could be a main reason. And so you could write a whole paragraph explaining in detail what that might be. Okay, you could also write, I would imagine an argument where you could write another paragraph saying that older employees tend to be more efficient, right? If they've been at the company for a long time, they know all of the processes and they understand the organization more fully than maybe newer folks or younger folks do. And so they allow for efficiencies, for work to happen faster. They can potentially be better managers of people or provide leadership decisions that take all of the considerations into account. Okay, now we know that there are arguments on the other side of this as well. I could certainly make some good arguments that younger people could make effective leaders, okay? But for this essay that we're imagining, you want to take a clear position that you agree, okay? In this case, we're imagining we agree, and we want to write paragraphs that support that view. Now, if you have time, it can be a good idea to present some opposing views, okay? So you might write a little bit about why some people might disagree with you, but make sure you don't present counter arguments in such a way that it seems like you are arguing with yourself. Okay, so in other words, you want to present, you can, if you have time to do so, and if you choose to do so, you can present opposing views to your own, but your goal should be to explain why they are incorrect, why they're wrong. Okay, so for example, somebody might say, well, younger people, some people say that young folks make better leaders in organizations because they have fresh ideas, and they're not going to be they're not going to feel pressure to conform to the way things have always been. They're going to come in and present new ideas and potentially take the company in a new direction. Okay, that's a perfectly good argument, but you could you should, if you're writing this essay about completely agreeing with the statement, you need to say why that perspective is wrong. Okay, so you'll need to say something like, well, even though they might provide fresh perspectives, they lack the experience to know whether or not all these new ideas that they come with are valid or that they are going to stand up to the pressures that the company faces or the economic realities that only the older folks in the organization will fully comprehend and understand because of their experience. Okay, that's just an example, right? There are many ways you could approach this thing. The point is, if you are going to agree with the statement, as we've done in this particular example, you need to, at all times, support that position and remain consistent throughout your essay. Okay, when you're done with your body paragraphs, you present a conclusion, and you're done. Okay, so that's our first example. Now let's think about an example where we're going to do the opposite. We're going to disagree with the statement that's provided. Okay, so sample question number 2. Here it is. Maintaining public libraries is a waste of time since computer technology is now replacing their functions. To what extent do you agree or disagree? All right, so now we're going to completely disagree with this, all right? So we're going to imagine that we want to argue against this position. Now, we don't need to cover this entire concept again. This is basically just the opposite of what we described a moment ago. Now we need to have a thesis statement that clearly presents that we disagree with this statement, and we need to then make sure that our body paragraphs fully support that position. Okay, so what could we say to support this? Well, I can imagine a body paragraph where we say that not everyone has equal access to computer technology, right? And so libraries are a main place where people can go and access older books, and they can access printed materials. They can even access digital materials in a library because those resources are provided freely to the public, okay? And there are staff on board who can help people find information they need and get the resources they need. So we would argue there that there are benefits to maintaining this that we can't expect to be upheld just by the existence of technology in the world. Since not everybody has access to that, we need to provide access in a library setting for these types of resources. Okay, so there's an example, some details. This would be an example of a paragraph, some information in a paragraph you could write to support the position that you disagree with the statement that digital technologies are going to make libraries not useful anymore, something like that. Okay, so anyway, you want to make sure you're consistent throughout. Disagree. Paragraph 1, body paragraph 1 disagrees. You present another idea in body paragraph 2. And just with the example we saw before, you could present an opposing view to this viewpoint, but your goal ought to be to refute that view, to show why it's wrong. Okay, so same concept as we just talked about before, right? Okay. But now let's consider a third way. So there's another way that you can do this, and this may be practical for you. So sometimes, I would argue probably most of the time, you're going to be able to imagine arguments on both sides of the issue that IELTS presents to you for task 2. That's normal, that's common. That's because they're presenting topics that are truly debatable and that have good positions on both sides in most cases, okay? So if it's easiest for you to completely agree or completely disagree, then go with that. You want to go with what's easiest and most natural. But sometimes it's easiest to take a middle position. You can partially agree or partially disagree with the statement, and in that case, you need to do a couple of different things in the organization of your essay. All right, so let's take a look at a third essay prompt to consider for this one. Okay, so the third one we have, people's shopping habits depend more on the age group they belong to than any other factor. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, so here we are. We need to now, this time, we want to present a mixed view on this topic. Okay, so to do this, when we were thinking about the other question types before, we were taking a position, a clear position. We agree or we disagree on the topic. And for those, I recommended an approach where you might have 3 body paragraphs, 2 that support your position, and then 1 where you present the other side, but you present it so that you disagree and show why they're wrong. Okay. Now, to be clear, in those other essay types, you can have 2 body paragraphs. You don't need to write that third paragraph, but that can be a strong thing to do if you have enough time to do it in your essay. But you at least need those 2 paragraphs supporting the clear agree or disagree position that you're taking. Now, in this essay type, where we're going to partially agree or partially disagree, we should most likely only have 2 body paragraphs. Okay, you want to have 1 body paragraph where you express your partial agreement with the statement, and then 1 body paragraph where you express your partial disagreement with the statement. Okay, so we're thinking about now, the statement is that age group is, above anything else, is the key thing that defines your purchasing habits in some way. Okay, well, to partially agree with this, we might present an argument, something like, yes, most people have different needs based on their age. Young parents need particular things to support their babies. And later in life, People can sometimes spend money on leisure activities now that they have more time at an older age. Maybe they're retired, right? Their shopping habits will be different because they're going to spend money in different ways. Or maybe when people get older, they're thinking about retirement and they are now becoming more careful with their money because they see that they need it to stretch longer and longer. Okay, all examples of how you might partially support this view. But then you have to find on the other side some reasons to disagree with it, okay? And for this particular question, we could imagine, is there another factor that might explain people's shopping habits more than, or at least equal to, somebody's age? And of course, there are different things we could consider. One's geographical location in the world, where you live, could have a big influence on the things that you buy, okay? So people in warmer climates or in colder climates could have different needs, and those could really dictate the kinds of things you would need on a daily basis, okay? Other factors could be social class and your wealth status, and all of those kinds of things could really impact what kinds of things you buy. So you would want to explain clearly in that other paragraph, while there are ways in which age is really important, there are other factors that could be equally important and influence somebody's shopping habits, okay? That would be the kind of approach you would need to take, a kind of balanced approach, and really importantly, you need to present that balanced approach in your thesis statement in the beginning. So if you're going to take a mixed view, one recommendation I often give is to wait to write your thesis statement until after you've fully formulated both sides of your argument. Because in some way you want to present that you're taking a mixed view, and ideally in your thesis statement, you would kind of give an indication of what your main points are going to be on either side of the issue that you're describing. Okay, so in summary, for this essay type, if you're going to take a mixed view, you need to express that mixed view clearly in your thesis statement, and then you should devote one body paragraph to the agreement or disagreement first, and the other body paragraph to the opposite side. Okay. So that's in general how I would recommend you focus your essays, you organize your essays for this style of question, agree, disagree. There's not one best way to do it. And like I've said several times throughout this video, there are no right answers to this. There's only a good and bad way to organize your response. And that's what IELTS is looking for. They want to see that you can take a position on the question and then argue that position clearly and consistently throughout the essay. That's what's going to be the key factor in your ability to score well in those categories where they're scoring your kind of ability to answer the question completely and clearly, okay? So that's some advice on how to approach these questions, these tricky agree-disagree questions that you might encounter on the test. So if you like this video, please hit like down below, subscribe to our channel. These are all ways that that other people can find us as well. If you liked it, other people might like it. And also subscribing allows, make sure that you are going to see all of our great content when it comes out here on our YouTube channel. We keep publishing things all the time, so check it out. Also, get over to Magoosh IELTS. It's a great place to study for the IELTS exam. And we've got lots of exciting new stuff over there that we've recently released. We are now offering speaking grading, so you can practice speaking, and we'll give you an indication of your score that you might receive on the IELTS exam with some feedback on how you did. We also have essay grading, video lessons, and practice questions, all kinds of stuff that you can use to make sure you're as prepared as you can be for the test. Okay, thank you for joining me here, and I hope to see you in the next videos that are coming out real soon.